Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In economic news, the nation's workers received more devastating news Friday. 85,000 jobs were lost last month, a far higher number than analysts had projected. The official unemployment rate remained at 10%, but that was only because 661,000 people were not counted as unemployed because they had not looked for a job in the 4 weeks preceding the December survey. If those people had been included in the tally, the jobless rate would have been closer to 10.4%. On Friday, President Obama acknowledged the latest job numbers were discouraging.
The jobs numbers that were released by the Labor Department this morning are a reminder that the road to recovery is never straight, and that we have to continue to work every single day to get our economy moving again. For most Americans, and for me, that means jobs. It means whether we are putting people back to work.
The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports just 80% of men between ages of 25 and 54 were employed in December. That's the lowest figure ever recorded. The economy has shed more than 7.2 million jobs since the recession started in December 2007. In other economic news, Wall Street firms are preparing to give out billions of dollars in annual bonuses. The average employee at Goldman Sachs is expected to receive a bonus worth nearly $600,000. Many executives will earn far more. At J.P. Morgan, the average bonus is expected to top $450,000. But the Wall Street Journal reports many employees at Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, and other firms are grumbling because much of this year's bonus will be in stock instead of cash. In Afghanistan, another international journalist has been killed while embedded with U.S. troops. Rupert Hamer, the defense correspondent for the Sunday Mirror of London, died on Sunday in a roadside bomb attack in Helmand province. The blast also killed a U.S. Marine and an Afghan soldier. A photographer for the Sunday Mirror, Philip Coburn, was injured in the attack and is in serious but stable condition. Rupert Hamer is the second Western journalist to have been killed on an embedded assignment in the last 2 weeks. Michelle Lang, a Canadian reporter from the Calgary Herald newspaper, died December 30th. In all, 18 journalists have been killed since the U.S.-led invasion of Afghanistan in 2001, but Lang and Hamer are the first journalists of the war to die while embedded with U.S. troops. In other news from Afghanistan, the company formerly known as Blackwater is in the running for a contract potentially worth $1 billion to train Afghanistan's national police force. Under an existing defense contract, the company, Z, that's XZ, formerly known as Blackwater, already trains the Afghan Border Police, an arm of the National Police, and drug interdiction units in southern Afghanistan. A Pakistani television station has aired a video of the suicide bomber double agent who blew himself up at the CIA base in Afghanistan. The video shows the bomber, Humam Khalil al-Balawi, sitting beside Pakistan Taliban chief Hakimullah Masood. Al-Balawi said the attack was revenge for the U.S. killing of former Pakistan Taliban leader Baitullah Masood, who died in a drone strike in Pakistan in August.
This istishhadi attack will be the first of the revenge operations against the Americans and their drone teams outside the Pakistani borders. After they killed the Amir of Tehreek Taliban Pakistan, Baitullah Masood, rahmatullahi alayhi.
Hours after the release of the video, Humam Balawi's father confirmed the man in the video was his son. Balawi's father blamed the Americans for his actions.
The American oppression against the Muslim world and injustice can turn anyone to this sort of thing. There's an American oppression, arrogance. They kill innocent people and children and find no one to tell them why they are doing that. We pray that God accepts him with the martyrs and prophets.
The U.S. use of drones in Pakistan appears to be intensifying. On Saturday, 4 people were killed in a drone strike in North Waziristan. It was at least the 6th drone strike so far this year. Meanwhile, the New York Times reports the military is being overwhelmed by the amount of video captured by drones. Air Force drones collected nearly 3 times as much video over Afghanistan and Iraq last year as they did in 2007. It would take 24 years to watch what was recorded last year by the drones, and that volume is expected to multiply in the coming years as drones are added to the fleet and as some start using multiple cameras to shoot in many directions. The publication Defense News reports the U.S. Army will double the value of emergency military equipment at stockpiles on Israeli soil, and that Israel will be allowed to use the U.S. ordnance if needed. The $800 million stockpile will include missiles, armored vehicles, aerial ammunition, and artillery ordnance. The news of the military equipment deal comes amid some tension between Israel and the Obama administration. Last week, U.S. envoy George Mitchell said Washington could penalize Israel financially to force it into making concessions to the Palestinians. Mitchell's comments were widely criticized in Israel, as well as by some of Israel's staunchest supporters on Capitol Hill, including independent Senator Joseph Lieberman of Connecticut.
Any attempt to pressure Israel, to force Israel to the negotiating table by denying Israel support will not pass the Congress of the United States. In fact, Congress will act to stop any attempt to do that. I don't think we're going to come to that point because I think the President and his administration understand that.
In other news from the region, 3 Palestinians died Sunday by an Israeli tank in Gaza. Palestinians said the 3 men were militants who were in a field often used to launch rockets toward Israel. Meanwhile, Israel has announced plans to construct 2 walls along its southern border with Egypt in an attempt to prevent African refugees and asylum seekers from entering Israel. The 2 walls will cover a total of 70 miles. Republican Party Chair Michael Steele's calling on Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid to step down over racial remarks Reid made about Barack Obama during the 2008 presidential campaign. A new book reveals that in private conversation, Reid said the country was ready to embrace a black candidate in part because Obama was a, quote, light-skinned African-American with, quote, no Negro dialect unless he wanted to have one. Harry Reid has apologized to Obama. In a statement, Obama said, quote, as far as I'm concerned, the book is closed. The New York Times reports federal officials have used their role as overseers to prevent the media from reporting deaths inside the nation's immigration jails. Immigration and Customs Enforcement now admit 107 immigrants died in ICE custody since October 2003, but for years the deaths went uncounted and unnamed in the public record. The Times revealed jail officials and federal workers strategized about how to keep information about the deaths and mistreatment from the news media. In at least one case, jail medical personnel falsified a medication log in an effort to cover up the death of a 22-year-old man from El Salvador. In another case, ICE officials considered paying to send the body of a Ghanaian man back to his home country to deflect news coverage of the man's death in ICE custody. Some Bush administration-era officials who played a role in the cover-ups remain in top posts in the Obama administration. A former banker for the Swiss giant UBS, who blew the whistle on the biggest tax evasion scheme in U.S. history, has begun serving a 40-month jail sentence. In 2007, Bradley Birkenfeld came forward to U.S. authorities and began providing inside information on how UBS was helping thousands of Americans hide assets in secret Swiss accounts. On Friday, Birkenfeld spoke to reporters before reporting to prison.
I'd like to say how proud I am to be courageous enough to come forward and do what I did to expose the largest tax fraud in the world. And the Bush Department of Justice didn't expose this, I did. But I'll tell you what the Bush Department of Justice did do. What they did do was give the kingpin, Martin Lichty, immunity after he pled the Fifth in front of the United States Senate and let him go back to Switzerland uncharged. Additionally, they gave international clients amnesty so they wouldn't be charged. They also gave the largest bank in the world, UBS, they rewarded them with a deferred prosecution, and they're still withholding 15,000 client names from our government. The American taxpayer should be outraged.
Bradley Birkenfeld's lawyer, Stephen Cohen, criticized the Justice Department for prosecuting his client after he blew the whistle.
To take the whistleblower, who is responsible for the single largest recovery ever for the American taxpayer, who has already saved and recovered for the taxpayers at least $2 to $3 to $4 billion, it'll be much more, and to put him in jail is a travesty of justice. It is a miscarriage of justice.